Okay.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, I will call this meeting of the Environment, Forest and Trails Committee to order at 9:05. We'll have a confirmation of the agenda. Do I have any issues with the agenda?
Don't have one.
Oh, okay. Then you guess you don't have any issues with it.
So I have no objections. No.
There you go. All right. Well, I'll take a mover and a seconder to confirm the agenda, to accept the agenda then, please. Moved by Rita, seconded by Ann. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, I declare that motion carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. Confirmation and adoption of the minutes. Any questions or any issues arising from the minutes?
Again,
Seeing none, don't have. So again, no problems. Then.
No.
Excellent. I'll take a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes then, please. Moved by Patty. Seconder. Seconded by Rita. All those in favor? All opposed? I declare that motion passed. Just before we go on, I want to, I don't think we've actually kind of formally introduced Darcy to the committee also. This is Darcy is our recreations facility manager. He's going to be managing the trails and parks moving forward. So that's why Darcy will be joining us. I'm assuming as many of these as you can.
Yeah, from here on in, pretty much. Yep.
Terrific. Darcy, this is the committee. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So we'll dive into reports. Memorial Forest. We still don't have a chair for that subcommittee. I don't know, Darcy or Jeff, do you guys have any issues that have come up with that? Seeing none?
I'll have to lean on Darcy. I haven't heard any.
Yeah, I haven't heard any either. I have a couple plaques that have been delivered that need to go there, but
Okay.
Other than that, we're good.
Okay. Wetlands. Don?
Well, it's spring.
Yes.
Things are turning green. Rita and Patty are working on a sign for the entrance. We'll let one of them talk about that.
Okay.
It's about time for me to be weeding and killing weeds and pruning and stuff, which I haven't done yet. Recall that we were going to put in some benches, but we need to talk about the budget and yada, yada, yada. So we'll let you do that, Jeff. That might be about it.
Okay. Everything's looking all right out there, though.
Oh yeah.
And
I was at the Stratford Naturalists last night at their meeting, and they were asking about the Phragmites. And I know it was sprayed maybe, I don't know, a couple of years ago, but they said that there's more growing all the time. That was one of the things that I wanted to mention. And also we had talked about the Purple Martin house that was ordered and that agreed to be paid on. And we're just waiting to hear back from Berry Hill Farms. Apparently, because of COVID, there's a problem getting the type we want. So Rita and I are still working with them to figure out. They were supposed to be up by spring, but looks like we'll have to wait till they're ready to leave this fall and have them look it over.
okay. Jeff, you wanted to comment on the Phragmites?
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, just mention that Kristen is on the phone with Bert, and we're trying to get Bert hooked into the call. Kristen Drost is on the phone with him, so I imagine we'll eventually see Bert arrive on the Phragmites, and we've done it twice now. last year we used a company called IPCC, which was the Invasive Phragmites Control Center. And they're going to do mapping this summer again, and then they're going to spray again this fall. They're fully equipped with the right equipment and the right trained people. And actually, last year we budgeted $5,000 and it only cost us $2,500. Our Phragmites is in pretty good shape in the wetland. I think we're not. Maybe I think we're holding. Maybe hopefully we're getting ahead of it, but some places are out of control. I agree. So. And yeah, so if there's any other questions, I think, we intend to stay on the frag in the wetland. I think it's very economical for us to stay on it with this program.
Very good.
I'll let them know.
Rita?
Well, I was just going to mention to Jeff that I think it's worse in the storage pond at the back. That's where I see it the most. Having been birding back there, there's a lot of it in there. So I just thought I'd mention that to you.
Yeah, really good, Rita. And I think what'll happen here is I'll send a note to IPCC and any observations that you have like that. If you're kind of, if you're out birding and you want to send me some notes, Rita, I can send them right on to my contact at IPCC, and then they're going to come back and map it in the summer.
Okay.
And the real key thing about this is the spray window. Oddly, to me, it seems like a really funny time. They spray end of August, beginning of September is the spray window for frag. And you would think it would be different, but that's the window.
Okay.
So Rita, if any of you have notes together that you want to send me with observations, I would be happy to send them on. That's a great way to get the information to them.
Perfect. Well, we're on.
Just out of interest,
Sorry, go ahead.
are they doing a spraying of the Phragmites anyplace else in the municipality?
At this point in time, and no, we're only concentrating on the wetlands. I know that there's some of the really bad patches that you'll see in West Perth are on the county roads. And especially along, I think it's line 20 where I'm just trying to remember where I've seen it now. Yeah, line 20, Rita. Okay.
Yes.
They've also got some trees to remove along line 20 because they had a lot of ash in their program years ago. And it's just, certainly Mike Kramer, our operations manager, is in communications with county, and we know they're aware.
Okay. Good.
I know this is one, but should we, while we're on the issue of spraying, Jeff, any updates on any of the Japanese knotwood? Sure. Conservation Authority intends to offer the same program this year. They do both spraying and removal for us. They're starting into their field season now. Thankfully, they don't have to do work on the knotwood right now. They'll do that work in June and July, so they'll get through their tree planting work that they're doing now and then get to that. Great. Anything else on what? Oh, Patty?
Oh, I can talk a bit about the signs.
Sure.
For the wetlands, the map. Rita and Don and I met and we decided to just name the ponds what they were already called, the west, the northeast, the southeast. And we decided to name the fenced one the storage pond because it didn't have a name. Okay. So I've been in contact with Sean Snyder's. I've sent him all the mapping for it and he is working on it. I have a question about who installs it. It's going to be a freestanding sign. It won't be attached to the viewing station there. It'll be a freestanding. So do Mike's guys install it or do we have Sean? How does that go?
So I have a couple comments on that. I think at a high level and to be helpful, I think we'd like to have a look at the sign just as far as its design and its layout for accessibility, because we do have to meet design of public spaces will apply to signs. So Patty, if we can, and Darcy actually, or mostly Darcy, probably less so myself, we can help you with just any tweaks to the sign to make it meet the accessibility standard that's required. And you know, we'll obviously want to have a look at the logo and things like that. Darcy, do you have anything to add on the sign content?
Nope, that's basically, yeah, just to take a look over and make sure that we got everything that we need for
Yeah.
dogs.
When we go, sure,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
The
When we go
size
for,
we decided was 3x4.
okay. So what you're going to see us as we move into new signage, we're going to move to the ROT7. Darcy, I'm struggling with there's a name for this technical spec for signage, and we can get it, but it's a very widely accepted by municipalities technical specification for signs, and they have and I think it's called ROT7. And they have signage requirements. So they have, you know, a suite of signs for trails, a suite of signs for buildings and amenities, a suite of signs for communicating on roads and things like that. So that you'll see us move to a standard like that, because it ought, if you follow that template, you ought to automatically meet accessibility, and it kind of drives your consistent signage. So and so so Patty, we can have a look at that with you, and then I should ask Darcy what we think, or maybe how we would think about getting it installed. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I think we could do that with staff. I would just have to align where it is and how we do it, but I think we can do it with staff to install.
Would Sean Snyder's be aware of this ROT7?
Probably not. I think you know, unless he's been making signs for other municipalities, he wouldn't be. So we should just try to work with him on design to follow that spec.
Can we send him the specs and so he's got them and he can put it together?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find. Darcy, do you have that whole package, or will I have to go back through the clerk's files?
I'm looking for it as well. I know it's here somewhere, but
between Darcy and I, we can help to locate this specification, and just, you know, I think we'd really encourage you to go with this standard if we can move to it, because I think, you know, and I just would point out, like, if you remember back, oh man, I was going to date myself here, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, all the sort of conservation signs and forest, county forest signs and everything were on that brown painted, pine painted, and they all had that same look to them. That was an early, like a really early generation of this sign standard that's evolved.
Yeah, I think if we can get the specs to Sean, he can take the details that Patty and Rita and Don have given him and get it done up really well. So he's excellent at that sort of stuff. So he can take the requirements that the specs and what you guys want and do something really well with it. So terrific. Bert, welcome aboard.
Patty has another question there.
Yeah.
Also, Jeff, maybe you can, Jeff Brick, maybe you can answer this. You recall the signage that we saw on the Listowel Trail?
Yes.
Are we going forward with that for our trails, or what's happening there?
I'm going to ask Darcy to just speak to that, because it's going to, I should mention, and Jeff briefly introduced Darcy, and we have a couple times, but we're basically transitioning trails and parks over to Darcy from Mike Kramer, because any of you who know the work that Mike's covering with operations, landfill, water and wastewater, Mike, we have to help him spread some of that work. So Darcy is moving into that space. So Darcy, we put it in the work plan, but did we put it in for this year or next year?
I really want to try for this year. It's in mind for this year to do that. I'm doing signage kind of throughout the whole municipality as far as what I own. Like, you look at the pool, it has different signage than the splash pads, and I would just like to get signage done everywhere that looks the same. So any signage we replace, we get to that same one. So I'm working on that, but yeah, I do hope to have trail signage, if not this year, next year, but I'm hoping for this year.
Okay. Any other questions? Rita?
I was just wondering, along the trails, of course, there's a lot of litter. Is there a community day for picking up litter along the trails at all, or?
I can speak to that as well.
Okay, okay,
I've communicated with Jeff Brick, and we've decided that there'll be an ad in the Advocate today, and it'll be on Mitchell Life and social media,
okay,
that there won't be a gathering of people to go out, but families and small groups can go out on their own. There won't be a place to pick up garbage bags or gloves or anything. They'll have to use what they have themselves. And Darcy's having the garbage cans put out so that people can, when they collect the garbage, they have a place to put it, or if they're full, they can leave it in a bag beside the garbage pails. And so it'll all be sort of spread out when people have the time to do it in small groups and with safety protocols.
okay, thank you.
Anybody have anything to add to that or question?
Patty, you're not going to organize these people. They're just going to go out on their own and pick up wherever they want.
Yes, they can choose their favorite part of the trail or the
Or
river.
what they usually do or whatever.
And
Where we are with the current COVID protocols, it's just pretty hard to do any type of
yeah,
social gathering at all. So,
But people, I mean, some have already been out. I met some high school kids at the dam, and they were picking up some
Yeah.
garbage. They all had garbage bags, and I asked them, you know, what inspired you to do this? And they said, well, our teacher told us we could go out and pick up garbage, or we could stay in class and work. So that's why they were out. So, you know, there will be groups, and there are people that come out every year, and they have their favorite section that they'll always clean up. So they'll just continue to do that in small groups and safely.
Good.
perfect. All right, I think that's it for the wetlands. Trails, we've kind of touched on some of it already, but Bert, do you have anything you want to bring up?
Actually, I don't. There needs to be some maintenance work done on some of it, but do you want me to do the work, or what's happening here? I usually get Mike to drop off a load of stone dust, but that's not happening anymore. So see what happens. What's going to happen?
Certainly, I can try to answer that. I think that we weren't intending on changing your role, Bert. So if we need to find a load of stone dust for you, Mike hasn't had one delivered?
Well, I usually either get it from Mike or Ian McCoy. So.
Okay, so Darcy, would you mind touching base with Mike and just seeing Mike's gonna, you know, we're not gonna have a second set of equipment and a second storage shop and all that stuff with the distribution of these duties. It's still going to be done by Mike's staff. It'll just be Darcy that'll be helping to coordinate it. So thanks, Bert. We'll make sure that gets dropped off.
Okay.
Great. The one thing I did want to bring up on trails, we talked about this last time, and I've actually got a text from Andy this week about the opening of that new trail section. I don't know that we can do any type of public opening at this point, but Andy wanted to do a story, so perhaps we can just meet with Andy and talk about that and do some coordinate some social media stuff around it too. So
yes, very good. Kristen's on the call, and Kristen actually developed a bunch of social media for us back in the winter, and we decided to hold off on promoting it then because technically our trails are closed in the winter time, and that sort of decision is really it's pretty operationally complicated to open them up in the winter. So we will make sure that we revisit that social media. And of course, yes, we can't do a sort of organized event to open it now, but we should at least get promoting it on social media.
Terrific.
So I'll follow up with Kristen on that. Kristen actually sent me an email on that about 2 weeks ago, and I just remembered it when you said it. Jeff, thanks. It's I got to go
All right,
back.
we'll maybe talk offline just to coordinate with the story with Andy too. So,
Yes.
any other questions or comments on trails? Seeing none. Forestry. Hannah, have you got an update on some of the work you've done on the trees?
Yeah, I do. We had great uptake from the CAs this spring, and we had to kind of jump on it for the spring planting because they started their tree orders, I think in January or maybe even earlier. So I contacted Jean and John Enright from Upper Thames River CA and Ensemble Bayfield. And we decided to go with a financial incentive for landowners who wanted to plant trees in the municipality of West Perth. So we decided upon 25 cents per seedling and $5 per tree for a large stock tree for Ensemble Bayfield. And with Upper Thames River, we decided $2.50 for large stock conifer and $5 for large stock hardwood. So I let the CA reps decide the incentive, and they did that based on other similar programs like Forestry Ontario's program. And we didn't do any advertising for this program other than what the CAs told the landowners. And we had a really great uptake. We got 1,430 trees in the ground. So that's 1,430. And it cost our committee just under $1,000, $937.50. So for a cost per tree incentive, it was really well received, and there was actually a waiting list in the Upper Thames River CA. If we had increased our incentive, we could have had even more trees planted. So I wrote a summary documenting some of this. I don't know if it got sent around or not, but it has more detail into what sub-watersheds these trees were planted in. And this incentive program helps us increase tree cover in our municipality, which of course helps soil quality, water quality, and air quality. I also did some research into how much carbon these trees could sequester when they're mature. And it was pretty astounding, actually. If these trees that we have incentivized to plant reach 25 years of age, they will sequester 259,454 kilograms of carbon dioxide from our atmosphere. So really, really positive, and it also will help increase our tree cover. So most of these trees, I think, went to larger or like hobby farms, not for in-town purposes. And some of them went for windbreaks. So really, really positive. And if we can keep this incentive going, there was definitely an appetite from the CAs and the landowners who participated for that to occur.
Terrific. That's a great story. So any questions for Hannah? Jeff?
Couple, and it's good. It's all good stuff. So thank you, Hannah. I didn't see the summary, and actually the summary would be great. And I'm wondering about, I mean, maybe we can get that summary and attach it to this set of minutes if that suits everybody. Secondly, I've got the invoices from the Ensemble Bayfield and the Upper Thames, and I was anticipating this, and I want to just say, we'll talk about it at budget later. Our budget was a little bit out of sorts this year because of the staff. Not having a treasurer is not an ideal thing trying to do a budget. And I got a few more gray hairs the last couple of months than I thought. I think I upped the pace a bit and gave some to council too, because it was just later in the process. We certainly had some really good help, and we've got there. So I do have those invoices from Ian Jean and from John Enright, which is Ensemble Bayfield and Upper Thames respectively. I will pay them. And when we talk about the budget later, yeah, I've got them, and I told them I was going to just get to this meeting and say we would pay them. And then I've got them signed and sent in. I just held off on paying. they knew we were going to hold. So the one was, Hannah was 435 and the other one was 500. Those two invoices, the 435 to Asaba Bayfield and 500 to Upper Thames. And so great, really great way to incent and leverage off programming that already exists. So I really compliment you guys. This was a really clever way to do it. And I think that we'll need to get in front of it another year to help you promote it if we need to. And maybe for the first couple of years, we won't even need to, which is great news.
No, there certainly seems to be some pent up demand there. So that's great.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much, Hannah. It's a terrific job on that. So.
Thank you for letting me do that program. It was really awesome and really rewarding.
Terrific. Any other questions or comments for Hannah?
I just want to say thank you. I benefited greatly from it. I didn't have to pay any taxes and a little bit extra. Thank you.
Okay. Do we need to touch on rural roads, Jeff, or is that we're dealing with those gentlemen separately now?
Sure, I can touch on rural routes. Rural routes also is running their program again this year. They intend, so in the approved budget from council, we allocated the same amount of money to rural routes that we did last year. We were working with rural routes to do a little bit of work on their governance model, just to make sure that we sort of understood everybody's role and relationships. And we certainly have verbal agreement on that. I haven't been able to get it written up. And one of the things we wanted to make sure they do, and they've been good about this, they have a good sense of where to plant roadside trees from their knowledge of how the lines and side roads work and in West Perth, but we wanted them to make sure they checked with the operations manager in terms of future servicing and things. So I think we've refined it that way. That's a verbal on the kind of governance that we've shifted. And I believe they've had really good uptake. They will again try to get incentive money from the Perth Stewardship Network, which last year, I think they brought in $4,000 or $3,000 of Perth Stewardship Network money to match the West Perth money. And so they got their trees in at a very economical rate. And this was large stock. This was very large stock, mostly hardwoods, I think. And so they'll have a report again. Last year, they gave us a report in about June or July. I think it might have even been August. I can't recall, but Tony provided a report with numbers and how they sourced the product. And they also they got product from the Conservation Authority. Some stock came from the Conservation Authority this year as well. And some had to come from private nurseries just to get enough. So good
Perfect.
news on that front as well.
Okay. Before we go on to there was one thing I kind of forgot when we were talking with the wetlands, the pollinator planting. That's going to happen this Saturday. Is that that was my understanding from the email chain? Dawn or Patty, either one of you?
I got the email as well. I believe
Okay.
it's planned for 11 o'clock on Saturday at the wetlands.
Okay.
And I contacted Evelyn about, excuse me, this area below our place that had the Japanese knotweed. It's been sprayed twice, so it's pretty bare land. And yesterday I started digging the roots out. The roots are like tree roots, but I thought it would be a good spot for a pollinator area. So Evelyn's going to drop off seed for me today to do this area. Okay. And I guess they need a work crew and volunteers for Saturday. I have no idea how many volunteers she has.
Okay.
You know, Rita, anything?
No,
Rita,
I don't. Yes, sorry. No, I don't know how many, but we've got to be careful again about the numbers because of the lockdown. Yeah. I plan to be there. I responded to her this morning, but I don't know how many she's looking at, Patty. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, okay, Another question about the knotweed roots. I have a pile of them. How do I dispose of those without starting it somewhere else? What do I do with them?
Jeff, any thoughts?
Good question. I can send a note to Jay and ask him, Patty, about what the best way to dispose of those dug up. Jay Ebel at Upper Thames.
Yeah.
So I'll send Jay a note and maybe I'll copy you right in so he can reply directly.
Okay. I'm also wondering, I'm sure, I hope to get most of them, but there's probably going to be some popping up here and there. And I believe Jay said that like they're a hollow cane, and when they can be treated individually then by just putting something down the cane. So I would need to know what that is so I could do that when it happens.
Yeah. So Jay can either help you. So again, I'll connect you with Jay and we'll figure that out for you, whether they come and treat them or whether they tell you what to treat it with, and you procure it from Bert or somebody and look after it. Yeah, you can imagine how labor intensive it is to find each cane and put a shot down each cane, but evidently that's how bad it's going to be to get it stopped.
Well, I mean, this is just a small patch here. I can't imagine down the other way where there's acres of it, how they're ever going to kill it all off.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll make that connection. And I just want to mention as well that certainly the pollinator planting, the location was at the wetlands, right? And so, which is great. And I suppose, and maybe if Rita, you want some help with this, I mean, we could provide some PPE out of our supply. I know that if you needed a bit of, like if you wanted a box of masks or something like that, just to make sure you've got the right PPE. I think, you raise a good point about you want to be careful, but I think we also don't want to tell people not to go outside, because I think everyone's need to get out and do things that are in the fresh air and make them feel good about themselves are things that we really want to be cautious, but we also want to be smart. So
Yes.
so Rita, if there's anything, if you wanted to pick up a box of PPE just so you have it in case anybody wanted it,
Okay.
we can arrange. I can put a box at the front desk of the municipal office if you want to just come by at the clerks and ring the doorbell and they can give it to you.
All right. That sounds
So put your name on one.
Okay, that would be fine. Thank you.
I will.
Great. All right, environment. Patty, have you got any updates? We've already talked about the pseudo cleanup, I guess. So.
I think we've talked about most of it. I have one more question for Darcy, though. I noticed when I was walking yesterday that the containers are all in the park, but I don't see them on the east side of the river. Are those going out as well in the parks and Ketterson Park? And
Yeah, they will all get out. We're just working on it one load at a time, but we'll make sure they all get out very shortly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think that's all I have for the environment. We've pretty much discussed it all.
Any other questions for Patty or anything other? No. Darcy, we kind of introduced you. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm going to add a couple of quick updates that I think the committee, they're more general updates, but I think the committee should know about them. And the first one is the reservoir. The Mitchell Reservoir was obviously drawn down and held down for 2 years while we built the Henry Street Bridge, and that decision was really. It was part economical and it did save us a lot of money, but it was also an environmental decision from the perspective that a dewatering operation, if anyone's experienced a project like that to that scale where you're building piers in the middle of a reservoir, the dewatering is a very messy environmental operation. So the fact that we could pull the reservoir down and essentially work in the dry for those 2 years was certainly a sacrifice for the people that live next to the reservoir and love the reservoir. But now it's time to get the reservoir back up. We had a lot more vegetation growth in the wet reservoir that was anticipated, and so we're working with the Conservation Authority, and I believe we may be closing the gates to start bringing the reservoir up today, or at least in the next couple of days. And if they're not starting it today, they'll be starting it this week. We've met with them a couple times. We're meeting with them again today. We need to develop a pretty good communications plan, because the big worry is we're kind of caught here between a rock and a hard place. If we don't do anything with the reservoir and try to remove the vegetation, we're going to have more vegetation grow than we can get removed, because it's very difficult to remove it because of how mucky it is in there. And so I think we've worked with the Conservation Authority on the conclusion that the best thing is to bring the reservoir up immediately, as soon as possible. And actually, normally we don't raise it until the end of April. But I can remember having conditions like this. It's probably 12 or 14 years ago. We had a very similar spring, and I worked somewhere else where I was responsible for raising a bunch of reservoirs. And we had to move everything ahead 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And we're in the same spot this year with this reservoir, that if we don't get it up, we won't have enough flow to fill it. And so we want to get it up as soon as possible. And then the really key thing about going forward is we're going to monitor it and watch to see if that woody, it's not woody vegetation, but it's vegetation that's dried out and died. And we want to see how it starts to break down as the stagnant, because it's a reservoir, it's stagnant, and how the warm water and how much dissolved oxygen there is. We're going to have to manage how we run that reservoir. We may have to, if the reservoir starts to have a real water quality problem, we'll have to drain it, and then we'll look for an opportunity to refill it. And we may have to do this for a year or two, where we might not get a full operating season. And so we're working with the Conservation Authority on what the parameters are going to be that we're going to measure. Dissolved oxygen and temperature are going to be key indicators, but what will be the threshold that will require us to say, if we don't drain this reservoir, we're going to kill all the fish in it. And that's what we're trying to get the balance. And so we'll be developing a communications plan, because there's lots of people asking questions, and they're good questions. And I want to finish by saying, big picture, and maybe I should have started with this, big picture, reservoirs aren't good for river systems. I think, when they were built, everyone loved the idea. But in long term, probably you'll see a lot of reservoirs gradually be phased out. I don't think for a moment that Mitchell Reservoir is at that point where we're going to start to phase it out. And certainly it was not anyone's intention with this project to sort of suddenly decide, well, it was down for 2 years, so let's just go for it and leave it down. And I'm a little frustrated with the kind of idea that that's what, maybe we should just leave it out, because the process of deciding to stop operating a reservoir like that would be a really big decision, and it would need a lot of public input, and you would probably implement it over many years. You wouldn't just one day decide to not operate it. And because environmentally, it would be better to not have a reservoir like that, but the cultural balance of people who like a reservoir like that has to be weighed, and those things take time and changing attitudes and education. And so we have every intention of seeing the reservoir operated and continue to be operated into the, maybe, I don't know how long. I mean, as long as the dam's in good condition, we can operate that reservoir. And I'm just, we're going to have to work with getting over this bad vegetation outbreak that we have in it. And it's going to maybe take a few years of special operations to get there. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And I know there's been lots of speculation, and I think some of it's kind of been planted speculation by people asking questions and getting answers like, well, why don't we just not put it back in again? And that's an interesting comment, but it's very provocative for the community.
Jeff, consideration for employing the fountain in order to aerate the water, and is that going to have any impact?
Yeah, great question, Don. The Lions Club has indicated that they would be interested in reestablishing and helping to support getting the fountain reestablished. The one trick with it this year is that it's probably not the year from an operational standpoint because of the fact that we may be moving water levels up and down, and every reinstall could come with an uninstall and another reinstall. So it's going to be a bit complicated that way. And then the question, I think, more specific to would an aerating water fountain have a water quality improvement? And it will, but based on my experience with them is that they have a very small area of influence. So they'll improve DO, dissolved oxygen, for a very small area, but it would be, the number of water fountains you'd have to put in to actually have an impact would be unbelievable. It's a big reservoir. So it's a good thought, and somebody else brought it up too. It is a good thought, but it would only affect an area about 50 feet. We think only 50 to 100 feet in circumference or in diameter.
So my air pump for my fish tank probably isn't going to help either, huh?
No, and it's good for a gallon or two, right, Jeff? Or it's good for a 20-gallon tank, but we got more than 20 gallons. It's the thing, right?
Fair enough. Any other questions for Jeff on this? No. Darcy, we kind of introduced you at the beginning, but I don't know if you want to, introduce yourself a little bit more, tell a bit about any thoughts or plans you want to focus on for this year. So.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Throw you under the bus here, but.
No, that's all right. So yes, I'm Darcy Cook. I'm the recreation facilities manager. I've been here since June of 2018, and just getting parks transferred over. Actually, as early as Monday was actually our first park staff working day. So working with Mike's still going to be helping out and assisting me in getting comfortable with the parks operations. And as for this year, obviously with COVID and everything, we've been kind of taken over with other responsibilities, but I still want to get some trail signage done, work with groups on how we can improve our parks. So I'm happy to be on this committee, and already hearing all the stuff you guys are doing is great to hear. And I'm happy to work with the committee and see what we can do.
Great.
Good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Darcy? All right. On the same, Lubicha, you're going to be our staff person from this point. Is that that's my understanding?
Oh, you're on mute, Lubica.
Sorry, I will be participating in a committee to take minutes, but I'm not sure what you mean by staff person.
Well, Justine was I'm employed. She did our minutes and kind of held my hand to make sure I didn't go too far off of off the agenda. So just wanted to give yourself a chance to kind of introduce yourself a little bit, the same as Darcy. Nothing too serious, but
sorry. Sorry, can you repeat the question for me?
I just wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the committee. So if they do call, if they want anything or ask anything about committee or the agenda or anything like that, they'll know who they're talking to. So.
Right. Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Lubica. I started with West Perth, I want to say a month and a half ago, in the council services coordinator position. Sorry. Yes, I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I don't have anything else to report at this time.
That's great. Thank you very much. I just wanted them to be able to put a face to the names. So.
Right.
Okay.
And I'll just say, Jeff, that Lubica can help with coordinating. And if someone has a question about agendas and things like that, you're very likely to get a much quicker answer out of Lubica or even Kristen you're going to get out of me. I hope you all realize we're a little short-staffed right now in the municipality, and we've asked Lebica to take on a lot more responsibility in supporting council than normally, but we'll get the positions recruited and get back to normal. And Lebica will be your main person for this committee as far as contacts and everything.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Now to our budget.
Yeah, Jeff, just a minute, sorry. Can I
Yeah.
just say something? I don't know where the demo plot comes under. Maybe it's forestry and I missed it. But the signs down there, remember we talked about last year? Neil has got them done, and I think he was going to put them up maybe today or this week sometime. And as well, the other thing I was wondering, is the garden going to be cut down there, mowed? In the past, there's always been a bunch on the committee that had whippersnippers and all the rest of it. I don't have that, so I can't. But is it just going to be cut down? That's all it needs.
So Darcy. Or I can start. I mean, we should, if we're going to, so this is the garden in the demonstration forest, the wildflower meadow in the demonstration forest. It should be cut down to 8 or 10 inches at the end of each year, just to keep it down. And I don't know if that got done last year. Darcy, do you know?
Yeah, I can't confirm, but I have talked to staff about getting it done for this year. So staff are looking at it. I have a meeting with them actually right after this to see where we're at. And that's one thing that we were going to talk about. So I can't confirm that it did get done last year, but it'll definitely get done this year.
We did ask a couple times, but I don't think it did get done. And with everything going on, it's last year I understand things happening. So
yeah, we'll make sure.
And it was Neil Douglas that did those signs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else before we move on to budget? Seeing none, let's move on to budget.
Okay. I'll say a few words about budget to introduce it, Jeff, and between Darcy and I will do our best to answer questions. So the budget for West Perth this year was a very different exercise than previous years for a couple of reasons. Obviously, new leadership in the department and only interim leadership from fill-in treasurer, although just awesome work from Terry Rao, who helped us get through the budget. And the councillors really noticed a different way of doing budget this year. We moved our budget fully into our accounting software, and it resulted in us not being able to represent the budget as we have in previous years. So this was a classic case of a lot of short-term pain for major long-term gain in the way that we do budgeting. And so, and frankly, the budget is a bit confusing and still needs some work. But what we intended to do in every case as staff was to reflect in the budget the initiatives that the committee had identified that they wanted to do. And so, for example, the pollinator garden, the money for the incentive programs from the Conservation Authority, we added those elements into the budget. And we also added money in for benches. And Dawn, I should mention before I forget about benches, Darcy and Dawn should probably talk, because Darcy really wants to work on a bench standard for the whole municipality. And I think we know that you folks want to do benches, and we want to come up with a single standard that is the one that we use. And I don't know if you want to say a bit more about that, Darcy, and then you and Dawn can maybe talk offline.
Yeah. Jeff had mentioned Dawn, and I think that'd be perfect. I think that's a perfect project to run through this committee, but we're looking at doing a bench standard that will work for all parks around the area. That's one, long lasting. I think two, is able to have a plaque on it, whether it be a sponsorship plaque, a memorial plaque, whatever it may be, but it has that ability, and then looks good throughout the park. So I've just kind of slowly started to get ideas, but yeah, I could definitely work with Don if he's willing, and we could look at some options and find something, and maybe it'll come back to this committee and then they can have some feedback on it.
Excellent, fine.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So, and then to get back onto the budget,
It looks like
I-
Patty had a question there.
oh, yeah.
Are we going to, are we planning on gradually replacing the benches that we have, or is this just going forward now?
I think moving forward and any benches that need to be replaced, like the Lions Club, I actually met with them yesterday about a total separate matter and they're looking to replace it. So I said to them, like, hold on, let's all do this together. And they were on board to jump on. And I know the Optimist Club is doing an accessible park and they want to do benches. And I said the same thing to them and they're on board. So as we move along and replace what needs to be replaced, but I wouldn't just throw out all the benches and start new. We'll work away at it. But I know we need some new ones in Ketterson as well and Veterans Park and stuff. So
Okay.
You're just going to replace the seats, are you? Or are you going to replace the whole thing?
probably for the most part replacing the whole thing. But again, it's all what's feasible at that point and what works. Like I know Lions, they're basically want to replace the whole thing in their Lions Park, and in Ketterson, some of them need replaced, and we're going to be doing additional ones with a possibility of an accessible pathway in the Ketterson master plan.
You know, I put most of them benches in.
Yep.
In fact, I put them all in.
So, and Bert, were you, and I mean, this is a really good, like the driving design behind the benches will be vandal proof. We can put them in concrete and make sure that they're easy to maintain and that they're stable and that they won't disappear. And so, yeah, the way that we've done it up till now, I think has been very successful. And there are some that we'll be able to maintain still by just replacing boards. But if we're looking at new benches, we want to move to a supplier that we always go to the same supplier so we can get the best price and then a consistent look on them.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think and certainly Bert, if you've got other feedback, we'd like to hear it about what you found worked in the past. And
well, the people just like the benches we put in, and they're asking for more. That last bench I put in a couple of years ago at the wetlands, way back to the back. People are really enjoying it, but it's the same thing. So you're probably going to replace it too.
Not without it getting to its useful life. There won't be any of that, right?
No, don't get upset, Bert. I think they're just replacing the ones that get burnt.
I'm not upset.
Or get sawn in half or whatever. Yeah.
Time goes by and things need to be changed, and I accept that.
Yeah. No, and I do think you raise a really good point, though, and I think we want to be clear in the way we communicate that is that this is about adding new benches, and when we have to replace, we're not going to go back and get rid of benches that still have life left in them. There's no question. We got more that we should be adding, not doing that.
But if you've got a lot of good feedback about that bench, then maybe there's something we could look at those type of benches and investigate those ones. So.
That's going to be a hike that we assign to Darcy today. Okay, Darcy, you have to go for a walk.
Tie up my
It's good for you to go for a walk.
Jeff and Jeff.
I can take you back to that bench at the wetlands with the mule. I can drive back there.
Oh, there we go. I saved the walk already.
But make sure you wear padding on your seat.
And when you get in the mule, I'd look in the toolbox and see if there's any refreshments in it for you, because maybe that's what he's hinting.
Yeah.
In that case, maybe I'll need to come too.
Yeah.
Don, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, Jeff and Jeff, back in the wintertime, maybe I sent you those designs that we used in the state park in the south for benches, I'm talking. Remember, they were aluminum and what have you, and kind of indestructible.
Yep.
Is that appealing at all, or do you want to go with more traditional sort of thing? I mention it because in the park, they've been there for now 4 years. They look the same as they were when we put them in there. They are maintenance free. They're modern sorts of thing, I suppose, and maybe not what we have in mind. All I'm asking is, do you still have that stuff I sent you that you could show to Darcy, or do I have to look it up again?
No, Don, it's a great question, and I just opened up your email and sent it to Darcy. So Darcy, you will have it already.
Aren't you a clever soul?
I mentioned it to Darcy at the time, and I forgot all about it. So I'm really glad you brought it up again. And Darcy, there it is. That's exactly bang on. So perfect timing. Thanks, Don.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
I have
They're
a-
also cheap, Darcy.
Patty?
I have a question for Darcy, I guess. Where are we at with water refill stations, and do we have to put that on hold during COVID because of people filling bottles and so on?
It's a good question on where we at, because I know it's been bounced around, and I don't know if Jeff Marshall has any update on. I know it was spoken about at council at one point, but as far as COVID, if it's water refill stations, like as far as your bottle being refilled, there's no real risk with COVID, but it's the drinking fountains that can't really go. Like if you've been in the arena, we had to cover ours over with wood so that the fountain doesn't work, but they can still fill up a bottle, because we still want them drinking water and still being able to use that. And they're using their own bottle, which is what we want. But the fountain, as far as sharing germs, is not a good move right now.
Well, we had talked too about the outdoor ones. So are we able to install one or anything this year, or is that all on hold?
Yeah, it didn't specifically come up at council again. I don't know. We had talked about putting some in our budget request for it. Did that go? I'm not trying to look through it. I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, I can try to answer. I know, for example, BIA had committed money for, and it perhaps would be a different project, or it might be the same, but I think you have different interests about where you would locate them. And then the other, we had money that was it Green to Go, Patty, or what was the organization? We brought that money in and we're holding it.
Easy to be green, yeah.
Easy to be green. So we've got that money held, and I think we'll be looking, and this is a moment to say the whole budget had this theme through it of, and it's very applicable to this one, that it would be easy to say when in the midst of COVID that we're just going to stop doing everything, and as a municipal, and because you can play the COVID card every time, and as a municipality, we've tried really, really hard to keep our feet moving and keep as many projects as we can going. But there are some of them that we've just logically, you have to stop. You have to, you can only spread staff so thin. And that's the sign on the trails has been a victim of that, Patty. And I know you and I talked about that as early as last fall, that we just could not go ahead with that project because we had so many other things we were adapting to. So I don't want this to sound like I'm saying, well, no, we're putting it on hold because of COVID. I think that we have to see where the opportunity is, and we'll try to fit it in. But it is more complicated doing business, even though we're trying to do business as usual.
Well, the Easy to Be Green group, we're about to do presentations to service clubs for donations or to sponsor installing water refill stations. So that, of course, that all went on hold too. So
Yeah.
Where would you consider the first priority choice from, if this committee was able to do one right away? Where would we put it? Where would this committee's interests be best met?
for an outdoor one?
Yep, highest need, and obviously we'd have to check for accessibility to water and hydro, but where would the highest need be?
Well, I would say either Ketterson Park or out by the Cooper ballpark and the wetlands, because people are hiking out there, and either of those. Anybody else have any thoughts on it?
I myself kind of think Ketterson, just with the number of kids there, with everybody's got with all the ball, everyone's got water out there, right? So they've got bottles to fill. We've got hopefully we have something else that's going to be happening out there if we ever hear back from a government, which would be a logical thing to as part of that project. So and I think we did discuss that being part of that project.
I'll make a bold prediction, Jeff and Patty. I know we broadcast this one live to YouTube, but I'll make a bold prediction that within a year we'll have a very nice water refill station in Ketterson Park, and some other amenities to support it.
Good enough.
It'll be,
Well
There's
so
also
we're,
the visit-
we've got, and I'll just say to this group, we submitted for a grant for $1.2 million, of which the municipality would, eight or 900,000 of it is senior level government, and we're waiting to hear approval from that grant. But we anticipate, we think it looks good. And that'll be, what it'll do is it'll be a complete redo of the Ketterson Pavilion, the trails that go around the ball diamonds, and it will actually be a beautiful jewel in Ketterson Park that we really will get a lot of value out of because of the use of Ketterson. And if we get that grant, we'll have a water refill station right there. And I'm going to boldly say we're going to be building that sucker this fall, because I think all the indications look good. And that's a bit of a risk, but I think we are planning to do it. I don't know, Art, Darcy.
There's also the visitors center down at the corner in
Yeah.
Centennial Park, and
Okay.
also the Lions Park. So there's quite a few needed.
Sorry, go ahead, Rita.
I just wanted to mention the wetlands too, because I don't know if any of you are aware, but a lot of people from all over Ontario come to see birds there. And if you could put that on the list, that would be great.
Yeah, that will be tricky because of getting access to water. Do you think we could do it if we did it out at the Cooper Field though? Like if
That would-
we, yeah, and put a good sign on it and said water refill station or whatever. And
That's fine. That's perfect.
That would work.
As they're driving by, they can see it, right? So
yeah, and that would be where the hydro and water would be. And that's always going to be the test. So those are three really good sites for low hanging fruit that I think we can watch for. And Darcy had done a lot of research on, I know, the internal ones, and then we picked up some research on outside ones. So we want to
I
keep
know
this.
Carla had done some research on those. So
yeah.
You know, and I know the BIA was also interested, and I think it makes sense to have one downtown. So
the BIA would like one downtown. Yeah.
And I think that makes sense too. So
yep.
So we got some moving forward. Sorry, go ahead, Darcy.
What I basically hear from this committee is the first priority that this committee would like to see is probably at the Kinsman booth or the Kinsman washroom area there that would service the wetland and the Kinsman ballpark and soccer fields. Is that my
Yes.
guess?
Yeah.
Cooper.
Or Coop, yeah,
that's
Cooper,
right. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah. Good. That's a really good place for us to start. And this might be one of these ones where I think we need to get one in and show how successful they are. I mean, the one we put in the arena, I think we struggled with that decision with people seeing the value, but it's high. I mean, it just changes things once you have it. Everyone realizes.
Yeah.
Do we have money for one?
So we have the money that's been donated so far. And I believe that the committee could pursue one with, certainly you could pursue one with reserves. If you wanted us to pursue one, we could, and you'd have reserves. So
How does
Let's do that.
everyone feel about that?
I'm in favor of that.
You want to put forward a motion? Then we can. Is this appropriate for a motion here, Lubitsa?
Sure, of course. Yes.
yeah, I think she's saying, sure, of course.
So I will, if someone want, if Patty, if you want to make that motion that we
I'll
move
make a
forward with
motion.
taking money from reserves and the money donated to go forward with a seconded by Dawn to go forward with a outdoor water refill at Cooper Park.
Would you want me just to bring a report back to the next meeting on what reserves we take out, how much it would be, and then we can do it then, or do you want to approve it and just go ahead with it? It doesn't matter to me. I'm just giving the options.
Would you like a report first, or do you want?
Yeah, so I'll just give the money number for a minute. We have $1,175 available to us in the water refill station donation line. And then this outdoor station was around 5,000, Darcy? Was that, would you recall that from the Godrich ones?
I think so. That was what came to my head too, but I don't want to be quoted until I look back at my notes, but I think it was around there. Yes.
Yeah, too late. You're on camera. You agree?
I'm
You
quoted
agreed.
now.
Have some courage.
I'm from what the numbers that Carla had given me, I think she had quoted me between 3 and 5, so that's right in there.
Yeah, and so then we certainly got that in reserve. If you just intend to do a project, and I don't have the exact reserve number in front of me here, but the committee has reserve, and I think if you want to, go ahead and get something and get a score during this time, and or it's just that we're expecting everyone to do things outside because of COVID, and maybe we just need to add some extra incentives and show some leadership. I think, I would recommend the committee, this is your mandate. If you think we should do it, let's do it.
And we could still reach out to some of the groups see if we can get some donations for it too. So.
Okay, I make.
So
yeah,
we got to move in a second for that.
Yep.
Any questions or any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor. Any opposed? And that motion is carried.
Excellent.
Okay. That's kind of that was definitely a budget item, but kind of taken off from the budget discussion. So, Jeff, did you have any more?
I think the Rotary Club is interested in doing a water fountain station somewhere too.
Okay.
And the Rotary Club is also doing rain barrels. If you're interested in getting a rain barrel through the Rotary Club, contact Bert Jr. And the other thing is quite a few complaints about the garbage barrels in Lions Park. They're always full.
Okay.
How's that?
Okay.
I can take the garbage pails one, and yeah, the rest are good. And the Rotary Club, I would feel free to contact me, and we can talk about another spot for a water refill station.
They're talking about a water fountain bill paid for by the Rotary Club. So, and the rain barrels are always good.
So let me just break that down then, Bert. Do you think the Rotary Club would like to contribute to this one at Cooper Field, or would the Rotary Club perhaps be interested in one at the Visitors Center?
Let me bring it up on Tuesday morning. Yeah. I know they talk about a water station, and I think we have the money.
Yeah. I mean, our community has outstanding water. We put a lot of money into having potable water, and I really love the idea of having refill stations available.
Okay, I'll bring it up Tuesday morning, and then Carol McClure will get a hold of Darcy.
Terrific.
Great, I like that.
She's the boss.
Okay. And then just to wrap up the budget, Jeff, I think, normally we say committee, this is what your budget is. Let's bring it forward to council to approve it. This year, because of the timing, it's already approved. You've got the money. And as I said, I think all of your projects are in there. If we find that we missed something, we will figure out a way to work with you as a committee. I think as staff, we really value the work of the committee. And I know that council recognizes as well. There was no attempt to reduce this budget in any place. I think we're getting good leverage out of the projects you're doing. So,
Jeff, some of us are getting older and we lose sight of things. Can we have a copy of that budget so we remember what we asked for?
Yeah. So where it is, Don, is it's on the last page of the agenda package that went out today, and I did flip you the agenda package.
What are you talking about? Agenda package? I didn't get anything like that.
Yeah,
What?
So I did grab the agenda package off the website and emailed it to you there about an hour ago too. So you have it handy, and we can give you.
That's about the time the meeting started.
Yeah, I did. Don made it. I missed it. I was on the phone with Walter. When the mayor calls, I answer. And usually. And so I just got back and I heard Don saying, I don't have the budget package. So I emailed it to you, Don. But,
bless you. Thank you.
Yep. And it's the last page.
Thank you. I see it right there. Yeah. All right.
And again, I apologize. It's a bit hard to follow, and some of the revenue is in other areas. For example, the revenue for rural routes is in another area, And
Yeah.
so we'll work on that in next year's budget. This year's budget was a bit of a, well, it was a lot of a scramble. I don't want to understate it.
I imagine it was difficult.
Yeah, it wasn't, that's not ideal.
It's been an interesting year.
Yeah, it's been an
many
interesting year
reasons.
for lots of reasons. Yeah.
Terrific. Any other questions or comments on the budget? All right, then we'll move on to correspondence. Louisa, do we have any correspondence for the committee?
Nothing received.
Great, thank you. Announcements.
Anyway, Bert's going to talk with you, Jeff, about putting the rain barrels on that big screen at the bridge.
Yeah, so you get free advertising, you get it, you know, community groups get a couple or 3 or 4 free advertisements. So we're happy to do that for you. And perhaps you'd like us to help with social media as well, Bert.
Yes, yes.
So we'll expect to hear from Bert Jr.
That would be great.
Okay,
We want to sell as many rain barrels as possible.
okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
If you go back long enough, you can remember that Ted Eglinton and I were making rain barrels for 3 or 4 years out of old plastic barrels. Do you remember that, Don Jones?
Yes, I do.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I do.
I still have one, Bert.
We got
I have
tired. I think we must have made 200 or 300 and took them to Stratford and got rid of them all. And
Yeah.
we charged $30 and all the money went to our committee.
Oh,
Saying that, that's it. As long as you help us sell the barrels, we'll be happy.
Perfect. We'll get the staff. I'm sure we'll get that up on the sign for you. So,
Great.
any announcements? Any other announcements? Sorry. Notice of motions. Our next meeting scheduled for May 19th.
That's great.
Okay.
That's a good day.
Any?
How do you know?
can I just ask you, Jeff, just with the timing that we've got to, and whether, I don't know if we anticipate a lot getting done before May 19th. Do we need to have
Yeah,
the
I guess
May
this is
19th?
because we got pushed back, didn't we? So,
Do you want to just go to the meeting following that, which might be September, or if there's something the committee thinks there's going to be an update needed?
do
No,
we
I
need
think
to go before then?
I think we just carry on with the projects that are online and are on budget, and we can figure things out in September.
So we can move that back till the September meeting? Is that,
I have
do we
one
need a
more
motion
question.
for that?
Oh.
Pardon me?
Can I ask another question?
Certainly.
I charge him $5.
Just put it on my account.
Okay.
What happened to our birdhouse? The
Oh,
We
bird-
talked about that, Bert.
Huh?
We talked about that.
Bert might not have
Oh.
been on when we talked about the Purple Martin house.
No. I
Well,
don't
what
think
happened was I couldn't get hooked up, so I talked to Kirsten and she kind of got me hooked up again. So
Not
Yeah.
a
I
problem.
don't know what happened to the webpage you sent me, but it got something from Russia for some reason or other.
Oh dear. Okay, we're gonna have to talk to your son now. Rita, give an update on the. Sorry, Jeff.
It's okay. If you've talked about it, that's fine.
No, no. The point is, it's coming along, Bert. It's just late. It might
Okay.
be
That's
might
right.
be the fall.
I know lumber's getting pretty expensive, so it could be a lot more expensive.
It's not that big a building project.
I know, but
Yeah. Jeff, or Luisa, do we need a motion to go to the September meeting?
No,
Or
we
can we
don't need a
just-
motion.
No,
No.
okay, terrific. So we will, our next meeting will be in September, and we'll send out a couple weeks before just to remind everyone on that. So,
okay.
any other business? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Me. I wanna
Moved by
do
Don, seconded by Bert. All those in favor? Any
My phone-
opposed?
My phone is ringing. Stay healthy. I gotta go.
See you later, Bert. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye,
And
everybody.
that the meeting is